Aloha and welcome. Welcome to ThinkTech, where we're raising public awareness about a whole range of issues from technology, energy, globalism. And as part of the ThinkTech series, this is your host, Carlos Juarez, and I'm bringing you the show Global Connections. I'm delighted today to be joined by two young Danish students, all the way from Denmark, that are here in Honolulu, Hawaii. They're part of a group of Danish students who come here for a Pacific Crossroads program where they learn about culture and language as well. They perfect some of their already good English, but more importantly, these are young ambassadors in their own way, cultural ambassadors. And we're going to talk about a range of interesting things, their own reflections and observations on what they're doing in this program, what it is like to be a young European today in this early 21st century. We live in a globalized world where not only are we connecting Hawaii to the world, we're bringing the world here. And so that's part of what we're doing here on Global Connections. I want to remind all of our listeners, of course, that we broadcast live here every day, weekdays that is, between 1 and 5, many different shows. So please stay tuned. If you want to have any of the links to those, you can find them all at www.thinktechhawaii.com. And if you'd like to join us here in our downtown gallery, we're here in the heart of Honolulu at Pioneer Plaza. Please send us an email. You can write to j@thinktechhawaii.com. That's JAY@thinktechhawaii.com, and join us. I'd like to really just thank both of you for joining me here today. I've got two young Danes, Mia Frost, that's Mia, and Nicolai Jeppesen. And Nicolai and Mia, thank you for joining me here on Global Connections.
Thank you for having us.
Yes, well, I'd like to begin, as we're going to talk about a variety of things, but maybe if you can give us just a quick snapshot. You both come to us from Denmark. Tell me briefly, where is home, and just anything you care to share about yourselves.
Yeah, I'm Mia, and I'm 20 years old, and I live in a town, really small town near the border of Germany.
Okay, so the southern part of Denmark.
Yes. The southern part.
Great. And yourself, Nicolai?
Yeah, I'm Nicolai, and I'm also 20 years old.
Okay.
And I'm living in the middle of Denmark, about a town called Aarhus.
Aarhus,
yeah.
Yes, okay. And this is
this
is a very large university that's based there, of course. So in what we would call the mainland, if you will, the sort of the peninsula coming right north there. And Denmark, of course, I want you to help us understand a little bit about. I mean, this is a small country in northern Europe, but of course a country with a long history, a rich heritage, a country we know for many different things. And I'd like to ask if you could tell us briefly, I mean, in your mind, as you inform other people, and you've been here for a little while now, people want to know something. What do you tell them? Where is Denmark? What is Denmark?
Good question. I would probably say that we are famous for our windmills.
The windmills, yes, okay.
Our energy is based on that.
Yes,
a lot
yes,
of
course.
Is.
And we'll come to talk about this a bit more, because Hawaii, of course, we are finding ourselves increasingly looking at different energy sources, and Denmark has quite a remarkable story of really transitioning in the last 30, 40 years from dependence on imports of oil and other resources, today wind energy and other non-renewable. So, I'm sorry, renewable energy. Tell us yourself, what do you say about Denmark when people ask you?
I think that the Danish people are a very closed people. They're not that open-minded.
Okay.
So it's a bit hard to start talking to them and get into the society.
And that's, I mean, it's a traditional society on one hand, and yet what's fascinating to me, because both of you as young Danes, I mean, you speak excellent English. Today, I've been many times to Denmark, and I can say I'm relieved that most Danes would speak it. Danish language is a hard one for us to penetrate and to learn fully, and yet, you've got this ability to kind of keep that as part of your culture. I mean, language is so critical, and beyond that, of course, you've touched on a few things, things like windmills. I would add to it things like even furniture, well-known, design and manufacturing of furniture products, a lot of other specialty goods, ham, one of the largest producers of pork, and some of the best dairy products as well. I mean, not just any butter, but Danish butter. Excellent quality. I'm sorry, what?
Lurpak.
Okay, that's the brand, of course. And you are part of this region, what we often describe as Scandinavia. Neighboring countries like Sweden, Denmark, and Norway come together, and we throw in the Finns every now and then. But nevertheless, it's a important area because a lot of the, you might say as a post-industrial society, I mean, you're a very developed country. You've got, again, a lot of technologies that in fact help inform other places. You mentioned the windmills, which is one critical area. And here in Hawaii, we do have some of this. We've had visits a few years ago. I remember we hosted a visit from the U.S. Embassy, the Danish Embassy in Washington. One of the ambassadors came here to kind of share some of that technology. Now, tell us a little bit about what brought you here. You're very far from home, 12 time zones right now. And yet you've made this journey as part of a large group. You have a group of students like yourselves who've come, and this is one part of your journey. We have here in Hawaii what we call a Danish Study Center, which brings a group like you to a mixture of sort of cultural studies, understanding both U.S. and particularly Hawaiian culture, but also some language learning, language awareness. So maybe describe a little bit both about, first maybe how you learned about this opportunity, and then what it is you're doing here.
I saw an ad on Facebook, actually.
Okay, so one day you were just browsing?
Yeah, I was just browsing through, and then this came up, and I was just like, okay, that sounds interesting. So I started looking, and I went to a meeting to hear about the different kind of, they plan a lot of journeys, so to hear a different kind.
Yes.
And then last year I found out that one of my friends were going, and I heard from her that it was amazing, and I was just like, okay,
so someone had been that you knew, and they helped to
Yeah.
kind of give you a little more. Tell us yourself, Nicolai, how did you learn about it?
Actually, I saw it on Google. I just Googled travel to USA.
You were just ready to kind of go somewhere, and there
and then
you
the Danish Study Center popped up, and I clicked on it. And
now it was probably google.dk, maybe the Danish version, so there it was. Excellent. And so, that, of course, is what got you in it. And then maybe give us a quick overview. The program you're doing, specifically, initially you went to New York City, and you spent a short visit there for about 5 days. Now in Hawaii, how long is your stay in Hawaii?
It's about 7 weeks in Hawaii.
Okay, so a good almost 2 months, and I know you've done some traveling already to other, and you're going to continue in the next week or two a little bit more. Then does the continue?
Yeah, we got a month on the mainland.
Just why not another month on the mainland?
Road
but especially because we get a lot of European students that come out this far, and it's astonishing for some of them. This may be the only piece they will see. You've seen New York as a good culture shock entry point, and then boom, Hawaii, then a little more, and the mainland trip is going to take you to what areas? Where will you go?
we end up in Las Vegas.
Yeah.
You end up in Las Vegas?
Yeah.
Okay.
LA and Las Vegas
Los
and
Angeles,
Nevada.
So the western U.S.
Yeah.
Okay.
The Western U.S.
Yeah. Well, it'll be again something else to see, and giving you I think a better sense, because obviously we're a very large country and diverse, and it's important to understand that. And I will go back to this idea that you are in effect cultural ambassadors. Both of you have taken on this role. You may not realize this, but as you come here, you're informing us about your world, your country, your home, your Europeans. But as well, when you return, you will also be sharing, what did you learn, what did you come away with? And, I'd like to maybe get a sense from you initially, what were some impressions when you first arrived? You got to New York. Had either of you been to the U.S. before?
No, it's my first time.
So,
I've been to Washington.
Okay, in Washington, D.C. And so maybe just step back a couple months now. When you first arrived in New York, a few days, you're like typical tourist looking around. But beyond that, what were other impressions? Were there things that you can share?
People are so kind over here. It's amazing.
Yeah.
You get a really warm reception everywhere you go. So
yeah, and of course we would say a lot of diversity, both Hawaii in our own diverse population here, but certainly New York City. Everybody is there. The whole world. It's very much an international city, right?
When we went to New York City, my first impression was that wow, there are busy people. And then when we went to Hawaii, it was completely different.
Yeah.
Everything is relaxed and
so the pace of life, maybe
Yeah.
in New York, everybody's got a purpose. They're going somewhere.
Exactly.
And of course, it's a very dense urban area. Now, here we are in Hawaii now. You've been here a couple of months, and before you arrived here, tell me a little bit about what were in your mind, what were your expectations or your stereotypes?
Yeah. Relax people. Really, that was just what I heard
you had
about
that
it.
image. Okay.
Yeah. That people were so down to earth.
Okay, and anything you could add, Nicolai?
I really look forward to seeing all the food.
Okay, good.
The different kinds of food.
Yes.
And the Chinatown. And
nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, food is so critical. We'll certainly unravel more about that because it's not just something we eat. It tells a lot about the people, their culture, what they value. And again, I travel quite a bit myself to Europe, and you know, food is critical. You know, going into the marketplaces, going into a home, and how people might prepare and want to share what they enjoy best. So you see New York City, then you come here, clearly a different set of things, and yet on the other hand, we are part of the same U.S. country. While we have these very real differences, we share some values, something that makes us common as well throughout the U.S. mainland. What can you tell us a little bit about your impressions of American culture, American society? Again, it's hard to generalize, but clearly we are not Denmark. We have a different set of although there are communities, you can find actually in Southern California, there's a town called Solvang. It's northwest of Los Angeles, and a little kitschy, but they try to be Denmark with a lot of, you know, sort of touristy things. But you know, how would you describe American culture and society as you've come to learn about it now?
I think it's the culture that completely different to Denmark. Everything is different.
Well, give us like in what way?
The way you act, the way you speak to people, the way you see people.
Some of it. I mean, you touched on earlier. Maybe this openness. You know, maybe people are a little more reserved and quiet and
very private at Denmark.
Yes.
So.
Okay. Yeah. And so here you can be at a bus stop and people will start talking to you like you're best friends.
And in the stores, in Denmark, you have to almost to
get some help.
Yourself, but here they just come. Can I help you with anything? I just walked in.
Let me look. Well, it can go both ways. Sometimes you want to be, you know, left alone, but so there is definitely maybe more of this outwardness. Now, it can go different ways too. Some people, you know, often note how Americans are overly friendly, like, oh, how are you? How are you doing? When maybe we really don't mean that. We're just trying to be pleasant. But any other impressions again about culture that you have come to see?
It's just so big if you're looking at Denmark and then looking at the America.
Just the scale and the size and of course again the large country itself is you'll be able to see a little bit more. I mean I think the kind of things you'll be intrigued by is there are some common maybe issues that are similar in different parts of the country, but it is also a vast country. I mean we would tell you it's not like New York City here, it's not like Florida or California, and yet having said all that, I might find myself traveling in Europe or in Latin America or in Asia, and you find another American, it doesn't matter where they're from, we have a certain common, maybe ideals or beliefs or something that brings us together. Now each of you come from a different part of Denmark. I mean you're in it's a small provincial city, but it's definitely a very vibrant part. I know, having been there a few times, it's a large, college town, if you will, a lot of young populations. You come from a more maybe rural, remote area, and so down in the far border in the south. How would you describe those differences? I mean, do you know her area of the country very well, or you just drove through on your way to Germany?
They speak a bit odd.
Okay, so different dialects.
Different dialects.
Yes, of course. So, and how would you describe his area up there in the north?
Like the big city. For me, it's like the big city.
The megalopolis. And of course, both of you are not living in the big, the famous capital. Copenhagen is a very, cosmopolitan, a very popular destination. It's a famous city for many travelers to come and go. But on the one hand, I think part of you coming from the areas you do in Denmark are a little bit more isolated from all that. You're not in the big tourist centers. You're in an education center perhaps, and maybe yours is more rural and just
many Germans.
So you're right on the borderlands. Well, it's a fascinating thing. One of the things I'd like us to speak to more as well is, I mean, helping us understand more about your own culture. I mean, you've touched on some differences, but in a moment, I want us to return and maybe look a little more focused on some of, you 20 years now, you've been raised in Denmark and you have a set of values and what does it mean to be Danish, but also even European, because increasingly we understand the European Union as it brings together now 28 countries. You are part of that, and yet you maintain your own distinctness, and this is an interesting sort of puzzle or paradox that you come together. It's not quite like the United States of America, but on some levels it can be, in that your countries are all sharing certain levels of sovereignty, but nevertheless what makes you distinct? I mean, you have not adopted the currency of the euro, for example, like Sweden, like the UK, and so there's like a push and pull that goes on. And I'd like us to, we're going to take a very short break right now, but as we return, I'd like us to talk a little bit more about that issue. What do you understand, it to be as a European, and giving us a sense of what, how things are unfolding in that realm, because the European Union is an important project and experiment, but it carries with it both benefits and some costs. So we'll be back after a very short break, and join us again here. I'm Carlos Juarez, your host for Global Connections, and joining me today we have two Danes that are in Hawaii for a short-term program, a Danish study program, Mia Frost and Nicolai Jeppesen. So join us for more in just a short moment.
Aloha, I'm Jay Fidel. This is ThinkTech Hawaii, broadcasting live from the Pioneer Plaza in downtown Honolulu. We raise public awareness about tech, energy, and globalism in Hawaii. Technology is critical to our state. A vibrant tech sector will give us new prospects in the global marketplace and will offer great careers and make our economy more resilient. Streaming live on Ustream and Spreaker, ThinkTech allows its hosts and guests invaluable opportunities to report important events and discuss important questions, and to be heard here in Hawaii and around the world. You can find links to our live streams on thinktechhawaii.com or on our mobile website, m.thinktechhawaii.com. And you can see our archive on YouTube. It's all just a click away. We want to do whatever we can to keep Hawaii relevant, connected, and thriving in the complexity of the 21st century. We hope you will help us in those efforts. Tune in today. This is ThinkTech. I'm Jay Fidel. Mahalo.
Aloha, welcome. We're back and we're live, and we're ThinkTech. This is Global Connections, a show in the ThinkTech broadcast series. I'm your host, Carlos Juarez, and I'm delighted to be joined today by two young guests all the way from Denmark. And here we are in Honolulu, reflecting on, again, some experiences that they're having. They've been part of a Danish study group, a Danish study center that's learning about cultural issues, also language awareness, and we'll continue to speak to that. But maybe I wanted to continue our conversation about Denmark itself. I mean, you come from this small state. We have certain images about it, but obviously it's a country itself that has a long, rich heritage, history, and as a maritime country, you've always been connected to the world in your own way. If you could share with us a little bit, I mean, what are the things that you learned growing up as a young Dane about your country, about your history, about its role, and your place in that region? I mean, today you're a member of the European Union, which anything you can share about what does that mean in your mind?
I learned a lot about the Vikings.
The Vikings,
when I grew up,
okay.
yeah.
So you have
it's
that.
a part of the Danes' identity,
Of
and
course.
Yeah.
a very huge part of our history.
Yeah. And again, we have these stereotypes, these images. I mean, is it a sense that obviously you were very powerful at one time? You even had probably more land than you might today. On one, what could you say about that Viking heritage?
They were very very strong people.
Very strong,
they tried to catch the power. They tried to overtake the land. And
So they had a history of conquest and of fighting some of the neighboring countries.
Yeah.
And again, this image of a very powerful force. And in some ways, an interesting contrast, because today Denmark, I mean, it is a key player and even in involvement in NATO, the NATO alliance. But by and large, Denmark is a peaceful country and has a long history, like much of Scandinavia, of maybe promoting more peaceful, settlement of conflicts and the like. Anything you could add again about your history?
I learned a lot about the battle on Dybbøl. It's a really big battle from where I'm from, where we fought the Germans for the right to the southern part of Denmark.
Yes, because this is a region that actually, it was under contestation and the border shifted.
In 1864.
Okay.
It's a really big battle, and we celebrated.
And so this is what effectively, otherwise you might be part of Germany if you hadn't won that battle. So it helps to kind of reaffirm your identity. And again, these things are important as part of the heritage you have, what helps you understand. Now, if you fast forward to the more modern era, I mean, both of you, interestingly now, have grown up essentially as sort of the new EU babies, I want to say, because now the European Union is at its 20-year anniversary, approximately in 93, 94, it gets inaugurated, and that's 20 years now. Denmark, of course, is one of the, wasn't the founding members, but early on it would join, I think, by the early 70s, the European Community. But it is a key part of this, and not just the NATO alliance I mentioned, but the European Union. Tell us, I mean, as you think about that, I mean, specifically, I mean, you obviously see yourselves as Danes and maybe as, from your particular region, but you are also Europeans. You have a passport that kind of gets you through certain doors faster, or you have, under this European Union scheme, you have more mobility, more opportunity to, to interact in the region. What does it mean for you to be either a European or part of this European Union?
Yeah, I think even though we're a member of the European Union, we still have the Danish values. We're still a part of a bigger picture. Yeah, exactly. But we still have our own culture.
So you're not prepared to like give that up. You want to make sure you maintain what makes you distinct. You're not Swedish. You're not German.
No, we're Danes, and really, to make that clear, everybody thinks that way. I don't think everybody is seeing the big picture.
No, of course, absolutely. And again, you couldn't quite say it's like the USA, where we do have a common language and maybe a history that has bound us together. Clearly, Europe and the European Union countries have forged together with separate identities, and while there is this growing integration, it's more, most of it is more economic and in some other areas, but clearly in terms of identity, I think there's been a real strong desire to want to make sure you keep what's yours. Yeah. The other aspect, I mentioned this briefly, is that today, out of the 28 member states of the European Union, many of them, about 18 of them, have adopted the single currency, the euro currency. Denmark has not, and it's a very proud country to kind of maintain this control over your monetary policy. Do you have any sense? I mean, I don't expect you to have a deep understanding of this. I do look at these things perhaps more analytically, but from your own vantage point, what does it mean for you to have Danish crowns instead of those euros that are down south?
My opinion is that I want to keep the Danish crown.
Yeah.
Even though we're a more globalized world, I still think it's important to.
It's part of Denmark.
Exactly.
Yeah. So,
I don't like the euro. It's kind of hard to. There's so many little coins and things that we don't need. We don't need them.
But on the other side, it could be easier if every country in the world had the same currency. So it has.
Well, certainly, and the whole project of monetary union is designed to do that, to facilitate lower transactions, more investments can flow. But at the end of the day, for those countries who've opted not to join, like Denmark, Sweden, the UK, these are among the more prominent ones. A lot of it, they're not simple answers. There's different reasons, but a lot of it is a very strong sort of national pride and effectively a desire to want to keep control over monetary policy. Often these are very powerful pressures that come from different economic groups, whether they're farmers or different economic interests. They often will resist that, because once you do give up control of your monetary policy to the central bank in Frankfurt, the European Central Bank, you don't have the ability to control your exchange rate, and that's a concern for some. Now, at the end of the day, most of the European countries don't have the luxury, in fact, or have chosen not to opt out of it. That is, most of them came to adopt it. Most of the newer members are wanting to adopt it. But I think, as you put it well, I mean, I think there's probably a lot of desire in Denmark to kind of just keep it.
Yeah, it's our pride.
Yeah. And I will say, you've got prettier coins in the euros. They have, little holes in one of them and little flowers, and makes it charming. I will also add that as I travel through there, I mean, it is frustrating. I got to go change my money, and then if I'm leaving with those, they're not going to be worth anything outside of the country. So but you have to be strategic and learn how to manage that. Well, that's fascinating. Now, your country is one that is often noted as clearly one of the leaders in areas of energy and sustainability and particularly energy independence. You mentioned the windmills, but beyond that, I mean, as you understand it, and I'm not sure how much you can articulate this, but what are other areas in your life or areas that you understand, again, whether it's in efforts to recycle or to use alternative energies? What are some of the things that you're aware of that go on in Denmark?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Well, if we have together all the trash by the road, we have something called "Hit the Trash." Then there's a big sign on the lights, and then you have to throw your trash at it, so all the trash get gathered in one place, so they don't have to walk like
Yeah, so it's a way to coordinate a better collection of your waste. And again, I want to make sure that you are aware, and certainly you'll need to become aware as you get older, but your country is often seen as one of the leaders in how it's 40 years ago you had a heavy dependence on a lot of imported oil and other sources of energy, and through very strategic and determined efforts, whether it's, and again, I'm not as deeply familiar with it, but certainly wind power is one, but other geothermal and then just more efficient use of energy sources and a careful, promotion. I mean, this recycling you described, I mean, there's just a clear effort by everybody to say, look, let's solve this issue more effectively. Now, maybe we can speak a little bit again about some contrast with what you've seen now in whether New York or your time in Hawaii, in terms of our own social issues. Here in Hawaii, we have this beautiful paradise. We have a beautiful built environment, the natural environment, sorry. But we have some real challenges in terms of our local community, large homeless population, many people who are, disadvantaged or marginalized, less, economic wealth. Even the service industry that's so strong here for our tourism tends to be very low-paying jobs, and people have to have a pretty tough, simpler life. I mean, impressions that you may have about that, because in Denmark, I mean, you have a very high standard of living, and you don't have massive poverty or homelessness, and often these are things that kind of a little bit shocking.
Yeah, it's really shocking, especially here in Chinatown. There's a lot of homeless people, and where I live, I haven't seen a single homeless person at all. I don't even think I've seen one in Copenhagen. There are not that many people that's homeless, and if there is, the government is sheltering them. So.
Any other observations you've had? I mean, were these things that surprised you as well?
Yeah, it's quite surprising that when it is paradise, why are there homeless people then? I think it's shocking when I come from Denmark where we pay high taxes. It's another world over here where it's a completely another system.
Yeah, absolutely. And now, I mean, these are complex issues. There are some real challenges that we face for different reasons. You come from a fairly small, homogeneous, and maybe a society that has a very strong consensus. The people accept, I mean, I don't want to say everyone's happy to pay high taxes, but there is a sense that, by providing a very strong state, the state in turn, provides, a basic safety net, a very generous one, and takes care of some of these issues. And for us here in the U.S., I mean, one of the things you come to learn is our values are one, well, we don't like taxes, we don't like government, we like this certain more individualism, and yet the cost of that can sometimes be that, maybe those who don't have as much are left behind. It's a real challenge for us, right? Any other maybe observations about social issues that you've seen here?
No, not really.
Not too much.
That's the biggest surprise.
Big star. Now, you briefly, Nicolai, mentioned something about your own food, and I wonder, let's take a moment, because culture is very closely connected to food, and as you've now been in the U.S. for a while, give us observations about, I mean, the foods that you've tried or seen, or conversely, the foods that you miss from back home, because one thing about traveling, you realize those things that you really put a lot of value on and you miss. Maybe we can start with that. I mean, as you've been away now a couple months, what do you miss most about the food back home?
Oh, the spiciness. It's a lot sweeter over here, I think.
Okay.
When they're trying to make like a barbecue, it's sweet, and I expected something spicy because it is back in Denmark.
Yes, okay.
So I miss my spicy food.
Interesting.
I really miss rye bread.
Yes, okay, your dark breads.
Exactly,
and
the whole wheat bread. And
yes. Yeah,
the only thing I got is oatmeal. That's eaten for breakfast, so that's a bit close to whole wheat, but
interesting. And of the foods that you've been exposed to here, any things that are new or different, or
not especially the Hawaiian food, but the American, we have a lot of that in Denmark.
Fast food.
So
McDonald's and Burger King, we have that in Denmark as well. So
we also went to Chinatown 2 weeks ago to try some of their food.
Yes.
And it was wow.
Some new flavors, some new exotic things. well, it's important to get out of your comfort zone, to get into, you know, try something different and, you know, expose yourself. But the reality today, and again, I travel many times to Denmark, is, I mean, I've eaten some of the best Indian food in Denmark. I've eaten, you know, food from, you know, many parts, and you live in a world where now, you know, like you said, a lot of both the American fast food is there, but, you know, even some of the, you know, foods from other parts of the world.
All around the world.
So it's a very global environment itself. I wonder, you know, let's turn for a moment now. You've had some reflections on just observations, but another part of what you've been doing here, aside from studying about culture, is in some ways either improving your language skills or gaining more awareness about language. And let's talk about that for a moment. You know, you come already pretty fluent in English. You've got a good working knowledge of it. In Denmark, where do you begin learning a second language like English? Is it grade school, middle school?
Third grade.
Third grade?
Yeah.
Quite remarkable, because I mean, clearly by the time you become young adults, I mean, that makes all the difference. If you wait until you're 18 or 20, it gets much harder.
Yeah.
And so it's in basically widespread. Do you have generally an additional language other than English?
German.
Yeah, German.
Yeah.
And a bit French too,
Yeah.
and Spanish. But
You can start that in 7th grade.
Yeah, so by middle school you might choose some other ones, or
but you still have English.
yes,
It's
yeah.
required.
English is the main language.
Yeah, so yeah, that's fascinating and very important, again, partly because, well, one short answer is that not the rest of the world's not going to learn Danish very easily, and so for you to communicate effectively, to be part of it. But you know, of course, the other is that English is the lingua franca. It's what connects you with someone from other parts of Europe, other parts of, you know, Asia or elsewhere. So it is vital. You know, if you don't have that command of an English language, you find yourself more isolated. Now, in terms of language learning, the other thing you've been doing here is in some ways either trying to improve some skills, writing, communicating. Tell us a little bit about what are some of the specific things you've been doing.
We had a lot of posters. We had a poster session where we had to find a topic and then prepare it and
so like visually put together something and be able to then explain it, right? Yes.
So
and what choices did you? What did you?
Niagara Falls.
Ah, okay. So you chose something in the U.S.
You have to choose Hawaii, just a different
kind
culture.
Of culture.
Yeah, a culture, something that describes a culture.
Excellent. And what was your topic?
Surfing culture.
Surfing. Wow, of course. Well, I have to ask you very quickly. I mean, you've come, of course, to the the headquarters of the surf for the world, but in Denmark you have some surf culture as well, perhaps not too much.
No.
Water's a little too cold.
A bit cold.
We have kite surfing and windsurfing, but
actually we have the waves.
Yes.
Up north, but it's way too cold.
It's kind of dangerous because there's a lot of
just
the water is strong.
Yeah, intense. You know, in fact, I've been to this very top part, the windiest part on the planet. I think it's just incredible.
Yeah.
Well, this has been great, and I want us to take another quick short break. As we return, we'll continue a little bit our conversation, some reflections on what you've been doing here, but we'll have a short break right now, so please join us in just another quick minute. We'll be back with more on the story.
Hi, my name is Dr. Rafi. Every week, I'm right here at ThinkTech Hawaii, 3 p.m. on Mondays. My show is Boards' Bio Briefings. What do we do here? Well, we watch sperm swim. We see if they catch anybody. We check out the latest biosimilars. You know, the kind that, what was his name? The guy with the bicycle? I guess we forgot his name, but he was taking EPO and other human growth factors. We'll be talking about human growth factors. You want to know where to get some? Maybe I'll tell. Anyway, you can catch me, as I said, every week right here, Monday, 3 p.m., ThinkTech Hawaii, Dr. Rafi. You can also find me on Twitter, BioInfoMedical. Or you can catch me on Facebook, Dr. Rafael Boritzer. I'll be happy to converse with you. Aloha.
And welcome. We're back, we're live, and we're ThinkTech. This is the show Global Connections, and I'm your host, Carlos Juarez. We've been having a great conversation with two guests joining us here today, Mie Frost and Nicolai Jeppesen. They're both young students from Denmark that are here visiting Hawaii as part of a cultural exchange program. They've been traveling through parts of the U.S., New York City, now Hawaii for a couple of months. They'll continue the tail end of it through parts of the western U.S. And, one of the things that you've had, aside from just some sort of learning about culture, culture, learning, improving some of your language and sort of presentation skills. You've also not wasted any time to take on some activities. You've been doing a variety of things, getting out and you might call it experiential learning or life experience, whatever it might be. But what are some of the activities you've been engaged in here?
We all did snorkeling with the dolphins.
Excellent. Okay.
It was so amazing.
So you got into the water, got to see some activities there.
Yeah, and we don't have dolphins in Denmark, so that was quite remarkable to see.
Excellent.
And then I shark caged as well.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Both went hiking,
you went
Diamond Head and Coco Head.
Okay.
And skydiving.
Oh gosh, jumping out of
shore.
airplanes. That's pretty ambitious. Yes. Amazing. And so as you think about these things, of course, part of the attraction here, we've got this amazing natural environment. I mean, did you see yourself doing this before you came? You had this
actually not.
and suddenly these opportunities presented themselves, and there you were jumping out of an airplane. Did both of you do it, or
no, I
just
didn't.
you did it yourself?
Yeah.
Yes.
Actually, I'm afraid of heights, but
wow.
I really wanted to break my limits.
So nothing like somebody threw you out of the airplane, and amazing. And on these opportunities to do again the outside, you also visited some other sites, cultural sites, or any field trips?
Winona Heritage Center.
Okay, the Winona Heritage Center. Yeah.
I think that's
the main one. Then Chinatown, a walking tour area, of
and
course.
Downtown Honolulu walking tour.
So the historical district and some of this. And as you reflect on that for a moment, I mean, you came again with some perception, some images in your mind of what it might be like here. You then suddenly got immersed in some of the culture. I mean, did you find, because often one of the things we like to say, it's very important wherever you are, whether it's in your home country of Denmark or you're visiting here, to understand something about the history, about the people, the story. As you think about what you've learned here, I mean, what do you take away? What kind of things did you come to learn about our story?
A lot about the immigration, that Hawaii is a mixture of many different cultures.
Yes.
That's a bit shocking, actually. I think that one country can consist of
so many
different
cultures.
cultures.
So many,
Absolutely. And on some level, our larger U.S. country is a product of that, but it tends to be primarily the initial Europeans that came to New England and expanded. Hawaii's story, of course, is one of an indigenous population that was already here, and you have to start with that understanding. It's not as if all the outsiders came and there was nobody here. There was, in fact, a large population when the first Europeans arrived. We know the story as it happened in so many others, that the arrival of Europeans also brought with it a lot of new disease, and within 100 years after the arrival, that our local population here really had lost a large number. But then the story is one of, again, partly reflecting our own globalization, bringing these various immigrant groups. And let me test your knowledge real quick. I mean, the immigrants came to us from where? Do you recall?
The Philippines and China and Japan.
Yes.
Korea.
Peru, I think.
Yeah. Small numbers, and then there's a very important, prominent European population that came, not from the early settlers, but among the immigrant groups who came for the plantation economy. Do you remember who that was? They brought their whole family, and they brought some of their food. No, they were from Portugal.
That's
the
right.
Portuguese. They're an integral, important part of our local culture here, and many of the things that we today take for granted as Hawaiian culture, whether it's our Portuguese bean soup, or even the sweet bread that we eat, things like that. Some of the dress, the ukulele guitar, these are all part of that heritage, and so the Portuguese, very critical. The early settlers, as you surely saw the story, I mean, you had some British, even some Scandinavians made their way here, some Norwegian sailors and others. I'm sure a Dane or two was on one of those boats. But in the days, particularly in the 18th century, you had a lot of whalers that were passing through here. But mostly it's our story of this immigrant population that you described, and it's important for, again, any place you're at, understanding that story. Like you described to us the Vikings, that's part of your heritage in the past, and and while today we describe Denmark as a very homogeneous sort of similar people, at the end of the day you've also had waves of movements of people, obviously the ones who chose to stay there, but these Vikings, they were not just in that small area, they were moving around and conquering people around. Yeah. So what else do you take away, again, learning about our story? We've described the immigrants that have come, And what about how they brought their own different pieces, and somehow what we call today our Hawaiian culture is this real mixture of the indigenous, the immigrant populations. How do you, I guess, make sense of that? Do you see, what kind of story does it tell you?
It tells me that it's a country that really tries to migrate people, that
really open-minded.
Take care of people. It doesn't matter where you're from.
And so it's open to, you know, outsiders, in effect, tolerant, and indeed these are interesting ways that we can. We'll take one final break, and as we come back, maybe as a way of winding down, I mean, what are the qualities or impressions or values that you see in you know, in this place? And part of it is that because we're a product of so many people, it fosters this relative openness, this, you know, acceptance of many people. It doesn't mean we don't have our own tensions and sort of pecking orders and things, but overall, compared to most places, we have a fairly tolerant and open society, and that comes from this history on some level. But we'll take a few minutes right now. We'll have a short break, and then as we come back, we'll finish you know, some final reflections on this. And we've been talking here today with two young Danish students who are here in Hawaii for part of a program. Mie Frost, who comes from the southern border with Germany, and Nicolai Jeppesen, who's from Aarhus, a city like in the central part of the mainland. And they're here with us having a great conversation about, again, reflections on their impressions about being in Hawaii and in the U.S., what it's like to be a young European. So join us for the final segment of our program in just a quick moment.
I'm Hong Jiang, host for Asia in Review on Tuesdays.
And I'm David Day, host for Asian Review on Thursdays. Both of us broadcast our respective shows at 4 p.m.
And my topics tend to deal with questions related to environment, culture, history, and sometimes human rights.
And my shows tend to be on international business, foreign policy, geopolitics, and national security. And you can watch our shows live on the ThinkTech website at thinktechhawaii.com.
And you can also watch us on YouTube or Olalo.
So come join us on Thursdays at 4 p.m. I'm David Day.
And on Tuesdays at 4 p.m., I'm Hong Jiang.
Aloha.
Aloha.
And we're back and we're live, and I'm Carlos Juarez, host of Global Connections, part of the ThinkTech broadcast system here in Hawaii. And we're joined today by Mie Frost and Nicolai Jeppesen from Denmark, having a conversation, again, reflecting on your visit here to the U.S. And of course, these type of visits, especially at a critical young age you're at, these are often life-changing, transformative. I mean, if I had to say to you, gosh, this experience, once you go back, you're not the same person somehow. You've got, something has changed. I mean, how would you respond to that? What is it that's changed in you?
You get more independent, and you're so far away from home that you have to get by on your own, and you get to see if you can do that. Yeah,
so you grow up very quickly.
You grow really
yes.
fast.
What would you add to this?
I feel more confident as well. When I'm coming home, I feel more ready to move away from my parents and live my own life.
And of course, and then just the other thing that I often note, I mean, when you go see another part of the world or another place, not only are you learning about that place and everything we've been talking about, but you then realize the things from your home, your heritage, your values, the things that matter to you, the things that you miss, and maybe things that you thought were important, but perhaps are not as important. They're, you know, you can do without them. So it helps you, you know, reflect on those values, those things that you have, and perhaps most importantly, the things that you miss, that, you know, that rye bread or something. Now, we were just a minute ago unraveling again some of the, you know, when we look at a new place, and you've traveled here now, you're going to continue, and when I say that these type of experiences are life-changing, in many ways, once you've come out of that box, you can never go back, and you may have, you know, friends or neighbors that may never have this kind of experience, and they will tend to kind of be perhaps a little, you might say, closed-minded or simple. Once you've seen the world, you get thirsty for more. You're going to want to find yourself traveling. You build new connections. You've come to see other parts of the world. The other is just any place you should go, and whether it's your own community or other, you know, places you'll visit in the future, I think it's critical to understand that story. What is this place, and, you know, what is their history? How does it define their values? And, you know, thinking carefully about your country of Denmark, you've got, you know, a proud heritage, a history of, you know, whether it's this Viking past, but beyond that, a sense of identity that is distinct, something that makes it yours and yours alone, and that you want to protect, and that you want to keep that shared destiny. And when I think of these countries, particularly of Scandinavia, they're relatively small, but they're very cohesive in some way. And one answer might be, well, it's so cold in the winter, you have to work together, you have to solve problems, together. You can't completely be alone in some level. But more than that, I think you have just maybe a shared experience that people work together to help each other out, right? We were talking about the story here in Hawaii, and it's a very interesting one because given the mixture of people that have come to make our place here, you cannot, I believe, you cannot fully understand this place and appreciate it and value it unless you understand that history and the story. And not just the immigrants, but particularly the indigenous culture that's here, the ones who obviously can claim to have been here before the outside arrivals, although they themselves arguably came from southern Polynesia. But that story is one that reflects our values, and we were talking about them in a moment ago, the idea of openness, tolerance to others. The stereotypes you described earlier, people are very friendly. Well, they are friendly in the country as a whole, but here in Hawaii, we often might say too, because we're relatively small and isolated, you kind of want to be friendly because you're going to see the same people again, or we live in a pretty small community in our own way. As you think about that, and maybe other places you may wish to go visit and see, I mean, what are some of the things that you hope to, other places you hope to learn more about? Is there anything in your plans in the future?
No, not really.
Not just yet?
No.
Okay.
On this trip we're on now,
Yeah.
I don't really feel that I experienced the American culture fully yet.
Yeah, just a little taste of
Just a little
pieces.
taste of it, but I definitely think I'll taste more of it on the in the mainland.
Sure. And you get back, of course, eventually back to Denmark, and I assume you'll begin continuing, either work or studies in areas. Do you think you'll have opportunities or make opportunities in the future to come and have an extended stay, or perhaps if you're a student to get away?
I'm planning to study economics in the future, so maybe I'll do it in, I don't know, in Hawaii.
There certainly are opportunities, and throughout Europe, as part of the EU, you have a lot of opportunities through the Erasmus program. You could spend, part of a year or a semester at another place. But as you certainly well know, here in Hawaii, we receive huge numbers of Scandinavians in particular. So students do find opportunities to come back, spend maybe a semester, or in some cases, even come back for a full degree. We think it's a valuable thing because you bring a perspective that's obviously valuable for us to the experience and the insights that you have there, and particularly the nature of your own economy. Your country has a lot that it can share with other places. But I think the same happens elsewhere. As you come to another place, whether it's here or somewhere else, you begin to see things that inform how you can do things better, right? Yeah. Now, as a final set of reflections, in terms of takeaways, I wonder if you could maybe each just give us a quick sense of what are some of the best. Over time, you'll go back, you'll share your experiences here, but do you have any things that you think will be most enduring, things that you'll never forget, or that you will always see part of you now?
I think I'll try to stay more open-minded. I'll try to be more open when I come back to Denmark. Don't be that shy and not that private, and just talk to people like in the bus.
Excellent.
I think
it's amazing.
Just be more open and friendly towards the other.
But I think it's going to be hard as well, because we're meeting our own culture again.
It's kind of a reverse culture shock to get back home.
It is, and it is it's good that you noted that, because on one hand, we describe this notion of culture shock when you go to a new place, you see things that you're not used to. It can be often a lot of anxiety, but you will return, and the initial honeymoon will be exciting as you reconnect and have your rye bread and see your family and friends. But there comes a time, often not too long after, where you begin to feel a certain anxiety also that you're back in that world, or that maybe, once you've seen people the second or third time, well, okay, yes, I've heard your story now we're back to the reality. And that reverse culture shock can often be,
and people don't get what you experience, so they only want to hear about it maybe once or twice.
That's right. By that third time, it's like, okay.
But you're still you're still living it.
Yes,
you can
yes.
say like that.
And even the reality that you're living it realistically, you're here. I mean, it's not always easy to convey that. You can have your enthusiasm, you can have a picture, but you won't be able to fully translate that. But your challenge, I guess I would leave you with this idea, is that you will return and obviously share some of that. And the idea that you're cultural ambassadors is that you're called upon to go back and help spread, a better understanding, either, affirming or dispelling myths and misperceptions or stereotypes, sharing what you've learned, what you come away with. And that's been important, just as you've come here to help us understand your world, your country, your values and the like. You'll be able to return and talk a little bit about who we are as a people. And these, I use that word cultural ambassador, but really what we're doing is a form of citizen-to-citizen diplomacy. I mean, you're coming, you're kind of engaging us, you're learning and helping us, build those bridges. And ultimately, that's part of the world we live in now, that this interconnectedness. We're streaming here live on the internet, and yet we've got viewers that are probably connecting us from many parts of the world. But beyond that, as this will be saved as a sort of an enduring outcome, you'll be able to share it with others and be able to tell some of that story. Well, I want to just, I guess, close on this. It's been a great opportunity just to, learn a little bit more about what you've been doing, a little bit about yourselves, and I thank you for taking the bold move, for jumping on whatever it was. Yours was Google and yours was on Facebook. Little did you know that one day you'd find yourself on the other side of the planet and making some new friends. The group you've come with, of course, will be some lifelong friends that you'll even back in Denmark maybe be able to now connect with more directly. But you've helped to enrich our experience here, and we hope as you return back to your home country, you'll take a little piece of us, whether from the Aloha spirit of Hawaii, but even other parts of the U.S., that you'll be able to spread some of that. So thank you so much. It's been a great conversation, and I guess we'll close it on that, and I wish you both well as you continue on your journeys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, and thank you for joining us. We have, of course, many to thank. I just want to quickly mention Ian Davidson, Marshall, our stage manager. He makes it all come together as well, and Chrissy Goffigan, the communications director, but of course Jay Fidel, who helped bring a lot of this all together. And thank you, our listeners, for joining us today. ThinkTech will be back on our continued programming. We'll have our next show here on Global Connections next week, Thursday. If you need any of these daily emails or social media programs, go to thinktechhawaii.com. And so on that, I'll just close and see you at our next Global Connections show. Aloha.